I'm going to do a tour of Caelid, explain a few things, show a few things, to get a grasp of what kind of person Radahn was. Caelid is rotted. It's often joked as the Australia of Elden Ring, for good reason. But you can learn a lot about Radahn and the way he ruled, looking at Caelid. In the comments, I noticed a lot of things that people bring up are answered in the game. Radahn. If you're wondering why I've got mixed sets, I just like to mix the sets. Now, I think the Smoldering Church... Yeah, the Smoldering Church would have to be part of Caelid since it's on fire. These swords are incredibly unwieldy on horseback. So, first note. You can tell subordinates by their leader. This is the only real road into Caelid. And the Redmanes have blocked it off. These firewalls are meant to prevent the Scarlet Rot from moving forward. So the Redmanes, despite Radahn's condition, have blocked off access into and out of Caelid to protect the rest of the lands between. You'll see a lot of these walls around. They're trying to slow the progress. Here, they're just straight up trying to prevent it from going into Limgrave. See what time of day it is. No, night. I want to be able to see everything. Okay, so Rot View Balcony, Shack of the Rotting. This was either a farm of some sort or like a entryway checkpoint. I'm leaning maybe more towards farm or some kind of homestead. There is a well up here. And it looks like a place for horses. Now, it could also very well be a checkpoint. Oh my god, that's so loud in my ear. I never actually wore headphones playing this game that was loud. Now, most of these weapons and things, I would assume, were put here post Scarlet Rot. Little asshole. But the Gael Tunnel is over here, so it could be a checkpoint to the entryway. Either or, it's the first thing you would see coming into Caelid. Whether, like, say, people from Limgrave coming in, or other parts of the lands between, you would stop here, and the Redmanes would, like, check you. Make sure you're not like a terrorist or something. On that note, you can see a lot. You can see the Dragon Communion Church way over in the distance. You can see Fort Jail. You can see, interestingly, that down there with a stone imp statue, that's where Trina's sword was. And you can see Caelem Ruins. Ooh, don't want to fall down there again. Minor Earth Tree, and then the Catacombs, which I don't think really have too much significance outside of it's a little Earth Tree. Let's see, there should be... Where are they? Not the best... Yeah, there's a cemetery up here. Or at least, coffins. So that could also put into that's a waypoint up there, controlled by the Redmanes. There's a small grave site back here. Let's see. Okay. I'll be sure to stream this. Have to die to fucking gravity in this game. So Gael Tunnel, which is an interesting name, since Fort Gael is over all the way over here, and then you have the Gaol Cave over here. It's interesting that it's such a far distance, and the Redmanes are still guarding it, so they're still getting use out of it. Sorry. Oh my god, that's so loud. His footsteps are awfully loud too. Now, how you're supposed to get down there? Unless the Redmanes are just like taking shifts by jumping like this. Which I have no doubt that they can do, but it seems like an inconvenience not to have an elevator for them. Inconvenience for a lot of people who have died coming down here. Oh, I didn't even grab the grace. I must have rushed through the second playthrough. Okay. Oh, that works in my favor. Now, the Redmanes are actively guarding. I need to stop doing the follow-up. There's no reason. Now, is he alive? Okay, yeah, he just bent over weird. You have two Redmanes guarding, and that's where, like, the land octopus are. Octopi. Whatever you want to call them. How they got down into the mine is, I think, a great question. Now, there are crystals, which, considering the nature of Caelid, having a crystal mine's not unusual when you consider Sellia and the other mage town. Oh. Ugh. These are the... Out of all the enemies to kill, I do feel bad for killing the Redmanes. Now, it's interesting because unlike the cuckoos, the Redmanes don't use the crystals. So I am curious what they're doing with it. You can see it in there. Do this first. I apparently didn't bother. I believe that's a magma worm. It's been a while since I've played this character. Now, why there's a magma worm in here? That's... So there are two important things right there. First, there's a magma worm. If you don't know... Where is it? Cathedral of Dragon Communion. Magma worms are people who partake in Dragon Communion too much and become magma worms. There is a Cathedral of Dragon Communion, so it's completely plausible that there was one in here. Why it's in the tunnels? It could have been, I'm not sure exactly what the intelligence level of magma worms are. I haven't really looked into it, but it could have just been in here to protect the tunnels. Now, what it dropped is important, too. Other than being one of the most broken weapons when Elden Ring came out. Moonveil. Katana forged of glintstone, masterpiece of a Sellian swordsmith. There's a lot to unpack there. First, Sellia did have smiths, which would also explain why there are 2 active mines. Unfortunately, the other one, a bit over by Sellia, is infested with kindred. Caelid does have a lot of cosmic-related weapons, and then some. Moonveil being one, Ruin's Greatsword being another. The Godslayer Greatsword, we'll get into that, and Flame Birch, which is Jaren's sword. Sword of St. Trina, which we'll get into. And I believe... well, I have to go get it. I don't think I have it. So, to reiterate, the Gael Tunnel. This mine is active. It's being used by the Redmanes currently. For what? I'm not sure. Because again, unlike the Cuckoos over in Liurnia, over here, the Redmanes don't, they do use, or let me repeat, the Knights will use sorceries, but they use authentic sorceries. They don't use the ones that you throw. What are those called? Yeah, the Cuckoo Glintstones. Which is also an interesting point, that Radahn's Redmanes, or at least his Knights, could use gravitational sorcery, while the Cuckoos can't use real glintstone sorceries. They have to use the pebbles. So back to Ravu. Now, try to do this without falling like I did the other night. The Forsaken Ruins. It's right below Rotview Balcony. The Forsaken Ruins... let's see if I had to take a guess. It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buildings. So maybe a small outpost or village. The Forsaken Ruins is incredibly important. Because one of the clues is there. Oh, shit. Oh, that's a thing. Okay. Try this again. Oh, wait. Okay, Torrent, you're gonna have to work with me a little bit. A little bit harder on controller. So, that imp door, it might be a little hard to see. I don't want to go down there and irritate that bird. And that crow. That is where you find Trina's sword, or St. Trina's sword of St. Trina. Are you serious? Okay. The Sword of St. Trina. Oh! Oh, you okay, I might want to clear this place out before I open my inventory. Okay, both of you. Just stay away from the edge. So the silver sword carried by clerics of St. Trina inflicts sleep ailment upon foes. St. Trina is an enigmatic figure. Some say she is a comely young girl. Others are sure he is a boy. The only certainty is that their appearance was as sudden as their disappearance. This sword should not be here. This sword has no business being here if you look at how FromSoft has done things like this. And what I mean by that, you get the Great Sword from Radahn. You get the Ruins Great Sword, a gravity weapon, in the Redmane Castle. That's where it should be. This is where it should be. Flamebird. This is in the castle. It's where it should be. This is where it should have been. The Mickelan Knight Sword. That was in the Halig Tree. This has no business being in Caelid. Now, Miquella did come by after Scarlet Rot was released, but it was Miquella, not Saint Trina. We know from Freya that it was Miquella who saved her from the Scarlet Rot. It was Miquella that was trying to help with the devastation. But we also notice that there aren't any Needle Knights. There's nothing from the Needle Knights, but there is a Sword of Saint Trina here. For further context, if you need to Alabaster Lord Sword, you get it off an Alabaster Lord. Clean Rot Knight Sword, off Clean Rot Knight, off a God Skin. Moonveil, it is in Caelid. It was made by a Sellia swordsmith. It belongs in Caelid. It's here. Everything... The placement of weapons is important in FromSoft. You will always find them where they should be. So when you come across something like this, you should question it. Instead of just saying, okay, this sword has no business being here. Yes, Miquella was here, but we got no indication that he ever, that Saint Trina appeared. So why is this here? Now, my theory for this is that it was given to Radahn as a gift, which would also explain why it's in such a secure location. You've got the balcony up here, this outpost, overlooking the outpost slash village where it was, and on top of that, it was in a chest locked behind a stone gargoyle lock. So that sword was protected for a reason. So, Caelem Ruins. Which, Caelem is a very sad thing if you actually look at it. Now, you can see the Colosseum over there. This little camp, I believe, was, after the Scarlet Rot. It's oddly placed in a place where it really shouldn't exist. Now, on top of that, you can see these roads going throughout Lands Between. This road is very well built. It's very well was maintained. It's got brick lining, it's got walls. It was rather wide. Again, this would be before the Scarlet Rot. But you can see just how big this road is. It was paved, it had little walls on it. So the Caelid Wilds wasn't quite as wild, I think, as people believe. It is now, but so Caelem. This is one of the few, I believe this was a village. A small one. Or a town. The road goes straight dead center of the ruins. So you have all these buildings. It's probably where people were trying to escape the Scarlet Rot. and they couldn't make it. You see all these wagons with broken... I'm not helping. With all these broken... The broken wagons with all the sacks and... Go away. You can see all the bones that are laying around from where... Now, I don't know if the people who died was from, like, the initial blast of Scarlet Rot from Melania, or if it's from the incineration of the Redmanes. I would guess the blast of Scarlet Rot. But look at how many people this is. Like, this is devastating. You can see where I think people were trying to escape. And contact these white splotches in the road. This isn't brick. This is dried mud. You can tell it's dried, cracked mud. Just in case anybody wants to come in with wells. You can see where the Redmanes tried to incinerate people who were infected with... Or let me rephrase. I don't think they were trying to kill people who were infected. I think once they became rot zombies, then they tried to incinerate them. Because that's all that's in there are rot zombies. Oh, hi. We've got... Oh. The road. It keeps going. Okay. More bones, more carts. But you can see where this road goes straight through the center. To the arches going out. So this was once a relatively large, or not large, it was a relatively lived in place. Let's see, did I get this over here? I did not. Now, there are 2 pumpkin heads, I believe, in here. Yes. The pumpkin heads, I believe, were once gladiators. And Radahn took in a lot of gladiators once the Colosseums shut down. Or at least that's what it appears he did. And they were guarding the Visage Shield. Or Visage, Visage. People get weird about words. Let's see. You could just see the devastation of this place. But going back to the road, considering this road goes straight through it, this town was probably a very well-traveled town. People coming in and out. There was probably trade coming in and out. People coming and going from Caelid. having a road right that goes right through the center of it would be perfect for visitors or traders. More carts. And the Smoldering Wall. This is another one of the Redmane's walls to try to slow the Scarlet Rot. Now, you could say, well, it didn't work. At some point, the Scarlet Rot did go, obviously, on both sides of this wall. It's not meant to stop it completely, it's meant to slow it down. And you can see around the wall that there's nothing growing. But you can also see where the walls broke down. And having a gap in the wall now, because the road is missing here, the road and the walls to the road are missing. I would guess that they did build across it, but people trying to flee Caelid or get out broke it down, which is how the Scarlet Rot probably got to the other side, or was able to advance quicker. Okay, Fort Jail. I want to do this. So if we follow the road, would have turned. It's hard to tell because of the Scarlet Rot exactly where the turn is supposed to be. Probably about here. Or here. Yep. Yeah, it might have been there. The landscape's changed so much, it's hard to tell. Oh god, it makes a squishing noise. I've never heard that before. I'm gonna start playing these games with headphones on. So, that wall stretches for quite some ways. So you have Fort Jail. And then the Gaol Caves. The Redmane are obviously very active here. They are protecting everything in this area. I'm trying not to aggro too many of them. And then you have incidences like this, where I'm gonna guess this is a root, not a. No, it might be a. No, I think it's a tree that toppled over, where the tree broke the wall, and then you had another one that broke on this side. It might be a root. Whatever this is, it broke the wall, and then another one broke the wall over here. You can see the dino doggies. Who are... Oh god, that sound is so disturbing. There's a camp of Redmanes down there. Another pumpkin head. You can hear him all the way up here, too. There's a camp over there. Yeah, there's one. Yep, there's one over there. Now, there's no paved road coming to the fort, or even Redmane Castle. So, the road into and out of, like, Fort Jail here would have been more of a dirt road than a paved road. There's no bricks, there's no pavings, there's no walls. Uh-oh. Oh. I did not grab this grace! Oh, he got stuck on a branch. Okay. You could see where the Redmanes are still fighting off the dino doggies. They do this at every location where you see them together. What is going on? They have a stalemate over there on the... Now, you can see how fiercely they were trying to protect Fort Joe from the Scarlet Rot. There's 3 layers of the Smoldering Walls and a giant pile of dino doggies on fire over there. And then a camp over here, a camp over there, and that jackass. This is what I also mean by the knights can use actual sorceries. Oh god, another one. Now, I do know I killed the lion in here. So, Fort Joe. There is a lion in here. What is that sound? There are a lot of bodies in here. Now this does bring up a lot of questions of if they were feeding people to the... I think they were. They had to have been feeding people to the lion. Now, some of these bodies are obviously older than others. Some are just bones, while some are near mummified. So, given Radahn and his idea of strength and his... It's hard to explain. The land in between is very warrior-centric. You see a lot of... And I'll get into it in a different part of the video. The land between is very warrior-centric, where it's die while you can fight, because aging... The idea of dying as a crippled, feeble warrior of old age is not... It's not what a lot of warrior types will want. And Radahn clearly is very set in that mindset. Before the Colosseums opened up for the PvP... Where is it? There was a ghost over here that was begging to get into the Colosseum, that was saying something akin to, "Why won't you let me fight? All I want to do is die a warrior's death fighting." I'm paraphrasing, but that's pretty much what it was saying. So, considering this is like Caelid's jail down here, it's very possible that Radahn was under the in the mindset of, you can have, if you had to be executed, you could die a warrior's death by fighting one of his lions to the death. Because he has several lions, and one was in here. And considering all the dead bodies, I would assume that is what happened. Now, I don't think they were throwing, like, Scarlet Rot infested people, because Scarlet Rot does transfer and it does infect everything, and that lion was not rot infested. So that is what I would feel is, if you were thrown in the jail and you were to be executed for whatever reason, he would let you have a warrior's death by fighting his lion. Which you can argue if it's moral or not. And then there is a knight and several Redmanes in here. Where's that ghost? Who's over here? Now here's a ghost. Now, convene the Festival of War, honor General Radahn with a warrior's glory. It's in your hands, Sir Jaren. That's what I was just saying. An honorable warrior's death is something sought after. Now, this ghost is also a commoner. And considering a commoner is saying this, we can assume, as another context clue, that, again, Radahn was looked upon with high regards from everybody. You can also hear it in voice lines from other NPCs. And yes, tone does matter. And I know people who haven't played FromSoft games aren't used to the level of detail you will get. But tone does matter. And when they talk about Godric, you can hear the disdain, you can hear, like, the dislike for him. But every time you hear somebody speak to or about Radahn, it's usually in a respectful tone. Even in the Shadow of the Erdtree final boss fight, when Ansbach greets Radahn, he does it very respectfully, despite being vehemently opposed to what had happened to Mohg and Mohg's body. He's still respectful, at least to Radahn. Very polite. Which can tell you that Radahn, again, was very well liked by a lot of people. And thought of highly. So I may have already gotten the amulet, but I'm not thinking about it. And again, going back to, you'll find things where they're supposed to be. I should have planned this out better. Yeah, I already got it. This chest over here is where you'll find the Star Scourge amulet, or the Star Scourge heirloom. The mightiest hero of the demigods confronted the falling stars alone, and thus he did crush them, his conquest sealing the very fate of the stars. I will get into this at another part of this video, since this is only one part of it. This is telling you, to your face, why he sealed the stars. It wasn't to stop Fade, it wasn't to stop Mikola, it wasn't to stop, Ronnie, it wasn't to do any of that. It tells you right here in big bold letters. And on top of that, again, like tone, words matter. The mightiest hero of the demigods. That right there will tell you that Radahn was seen as a hero, not a villain. He wasn't seen as this arrogant asshole who only cared about himself. He was considered a hero. Now, he confronted the falling stars alone. Originally, he was not going after the cosmos themselves, it was the falling stars. If you look at the amulet, you can see Radahn, Leonard, and a giant meteor coming straight at them. It shows you why he fought the stars. It tells you why he fought the stars. There was a giant meteor, or a giant falling star coming towards Caelid. And so he went to war, and then he just sealed all the stars. It was kind of a FAFO moment for the stars. Now, his conquest sealing the very fate of the stars, it may not have been intentional. This makes it sound like after he went to battle and crushed them, they were sealed. Although, I'm pretty sure he did it intentionally to prevent more falling stars. Because I will get into what happens when a star hits. We already know about the Astels, we know about the falling star beasts. And if you did Ronnie's quest, you'll know exactly how devastating a meteor hitting the lands between can be. Pardon me. Don't mind me. Let's see how to... this without killing myself. Gravity. Now, I'm not sure what... I'm not sure exactly what they're doing. They're all staring at the fungus cluster down there for some reason. They seem very interested in it, and I'm not entirely sure why. I did do this the other day while I was pre-planning this. I should have saved it. Now, the Gaol Caves. This is another indication of Radahn. So, you can say, well, making people fight to the death against a lion just to give them a warrior's death may not have been moral, but it was, it was the way the lands in between kind of worked. I don't think he did that with everyone. I think he did that mostly with, warriors. The jail, the very jail that the fort was guarding, may have at one point been a cave that was turned into a jail once Radahn kind of took over. Because even in the lands between, you need some kind of structure, some kind of, law. Otherwise, everybody's gonna just go around killing each other, and you can't have that. Now, it seems like Radahn took over after he conquered the stars. He kind of proved himself to be capable enough to... lead, Caelid. Now, these, as I said, I did this, I should have waited, but I did it the other day, so I unlocked the cages. These were closed. So all these flaming rot zombies were behind the bars. Slowly meandering out. Now, I say, like, this is not a... It had to have one been a cave that was repurposed for a jail. But some of these cells are pretty big. He didn't cram people in here. Now, you do have the cylinder cells and the rectangular cells. What's also important is behind that door, which I should have opened. There are vulgar militiamen in here. Now, vulgar militiamen are another telltale sign of what kind of person Radahn was. In short, the vulgar militiamen are not thought of very well in the Golden Order. They are very low on the rung, which is why you always find them kind of hidden away. But Radahn, in Radahn fashion, does have them as jailers. Because there are no Redmanes in the jail. He left control and upkeep of the jail to the vulgar militiamen. Which, again, you would never really see in the Golden Order, considering how the vulgar militiamen are seen. Help mourned by lean, mean, and filthy militiamen. I don't know how I don't have one of their robes. But overall in lore, they are not looked at highly. And yet Radahn would have trusted them with the jail, the prisoners, the upkeep of the jail. Because again, there's no Redmanes. Now, to point out, there's no, like, normal living person in here anymore. Again, these were closed. They're all the flaming rot zombies. So it seemed like the Redmanes saw that the rot zombies weren't dying, they were coming back on fire. So they didn't know what else to do, so they shoved them into the jail. And then had the militiamen keep watch to make sure they couldn't get out. We kind of ruined that by letting everyone out. And there's a lot of militiamen. Oh, look at that. Freshly singed battlegrounds infusing with the stench of the dead. Forbidden lands that will be excised from the memory of history. This is where the vulgar militia serve as untiring, unsung watchkeepers. So they are from the Lands of Shadows. And we did cause this mess, by the way, by letting everyone out. Normally when you see vulgar militiamen, there's a few of them. There are a lot of them in here. I'm going to try to do this without breaking anything. Because I kind of want people to see what's... Oh, they broke it themselves. Okay. Oh, they didn't break the important things, so... Try to get at them up here so I can avoid breaking everything down there. Okay. So this again will speak to Radahn's character as a person. Now remember, the only ones who would have been in here are prisoners and vulgar militiamen. The vulgar militiamen are not treated well in the lands between. Typically because of where they come from. But also their duties, which are on battlefields, graveyards, things like that. This is not a bad setup. Again, no Redmane, so all that was in here were the vulgar militiamen. You have supplies. Assuming this is like food. More supplies. They were given books. Like, they were given something to do other than guarding prisoners. Like, they were allowed to actually enjoy something. This is not something you see when it comes to the vulgar militiamen, where they're actually treated very well. Like, there are scrolls down here, there are books, there are tomes. They were given... Yeah, that's definitely food. They had food, they had provisions, they had a table with lighting, chairs. Like, Radahn treated them like he would anyone else. Like, they were just normal people. Like, he didn't care where they came from. He didn't care what the Golden Order thought about them. He still treated them like decent people. He provided for them like you would expect a leader to do. If they're doing something for him, he's making sure they're taken care of. You have more supplies, you have wood, weapons, more supplies. I don't want to say that's ale or wine, because drunk guards are never good, but it's probably water. So they were given supplies, food, water, mental stimulation / entertainment, if you want to look at it that way. Like, this is also a very well lit area. It's like, he wasn't trying to hide them. He wasn't doing what the Golden Order typically does, which is enslave and then force them to do what he wanted. He had them in here, and then he treated them very well. You can also see more supplies. Now, part of those supplies were also probably for the prisoners. It would have been. It's hard to tell, like, how much time passed between the Scarlet Rot and our arrival. Now, this is also very interesting. So this is boarded up. This, which is also what makes me think it was originally a cave that got turned into a jail. They boarded this up to keep people from possibly escaping. No, you would have probably broke a leg trying to escape this way. But there was also a failsafe down here, who is a gladiator. Now, as I said before, Radahn took in Pumpkinheads, which were once gladiators, and then he actually took in actual gladiators, and there's one down here. And he is guarding an exit way to Limgrave to ensure that prisoners didn't escape through to Limgrave. Oh, good luck getting down there. Now over here, we have another set of ruins. The Caelid Waypoint ruins, which are infested by the Kindred of Rot. Now, just as it says, it's a waypoint ruin, so this was like probably one of the Redmane waypoints. What's interesting about this is that there's like a tomb underneath. So these are graves, or tombs. They're infested with kindred of rot eggs. So I'm gonna guess Redmane were probably buried here. Or higher ups in the political hierarchy. And again, just like you would expect in Caelid, a meteoric ore blade. A katana forged from meteoric ore to dispatch lifeforms born of falling stars. Deals magic damage. Again, this is where you would expect it to be in Caelid. And going back to Radahn stopping the falling stars. This blade was specifically made to dispatch lifeforms born of falling stars. So, it's hard to say exactly what Radahn stopped. The theory is either one of two ways. Either he stopped an actual meteor from impacting Sellia, which was what landed in Limgrave, and I'll show the devastation of that later. Or it was a meteor containing a life form born of a falling star. So something like an Astel or a falling star beast. But these ruins are pretty hefty too. So this is another set of ruins. That's one set here. You've got Caelem, you've got the Forsaken Ruins, you've got the ones right below it where the Sword of St. Trina is. So if you put this all together, Caelid was a thriving place. There were a lot of people here. A lot of people who lived here. Back to the highway. And this... Oh god, these unwieldy swords. The ruins are right here, like... It's just right off the main road. So this is probably, again, Waypoint. So let's say you were traveling to Sellia. You would go through Caelem, you would come to the Waypoint rest, and then continue your journey on to Sellia. Or the Street of Sages, which, again, another set of ruins. We'll go to the street. Yeah. Oh god, the noise of torrent on these fungal clusters. The Battle of Aeonia, Radahn and Malenia locked in a stalemate, then the Scarlet Rot blooms, which we saw that in the trailer. Their stalemate lasted 3 days. Despite how hard Malenia tried, she could not kill Radahn. So she did the last thing she thought the last option she had, which was to release the Scarlet Rot. Which is how Caelid got into this devastated state. And before anyone starts harping on, like, why, Radahn had to die. That is no question. If you look at the Bark Scroll that explains how to make a god, Radahn had to die. He was the promised consort. He had to die in order to bring Miquella back, and then he needed a vessel for his body. So as to why he had to die. Now, as explained before, this is a warrior culture. Radahn was not going to just sit there and let Melania slit his throat. If he was going to die, he was going to die in a battle. Which was why Melania came to kill him. Now, as for the loss of life, the Redmanes do not see this as a loss of life. The Redmanes saw a battle the same way Radahn did. You see that with Freya, the way she talks, the way she is itching to fight Ansbach. They're not bloodthirsty murderers, but when it comes to battle, that is something they want. They enjoy it. To them, it is a glory. So understand that. As for the innocent people, this goes back to the 3-day stalemate. Melania could not kill Radahn. At least not with physical power alone. So, at the 3-day stalemate, it became all or nothing, and she unleashed the Scarlet Rot in hopes to kill Radahn. Melania, understand, is there for Miquella and Miquella alone. Miquella did not order her to unleash the Scarlet Rot. It was a decision she made in order to give Miquella what he needed, which was Radahn. She tried, she failed. So she did the last thing that she knew that she could. Understand, she was also willing to give her life to kill Radahn. If Finlay hadn't been there, she would have died. Clean Rot Knight Finlay. Finlay was one of the few survivors of the Battle of Aeonia, who, in an unimaginable act of heroism, carried the slumbering demigod Melania all the way back to the Caelid tree. She managed to defeat alone, fending off all manner of foes along the way. Melania unleashed the Scarlet Rot. She passed out. She would have died. Finlay made sure she got back to the Caelid tree. Melania was willing to give up everything to try to kill Radahn. Now, considering Miquella didn't immediately leave to start his journey into the Shadowlands, he stuck around for quite a while, trying to help as many people as he could. That is how he met Redmane Freya. She was infected by Scarlet Rot. He saved her. It is highly likely he went through here trying to save as many people as he could. Which also points to that he did not want this. Now, obviously at some point he had to go on his journey to become a god, because then this entire disaster would have been for nothing. But he did stick around to try to help as much as he could. Now, the Street of Sages is pretty sizable. You can see it start here at this tower, all the way over into the back over there. So this was a good-sized town. You can see Sellia over there. So these are two large towns next to each other. Now these two, considering their names and locations, were probably the first two, like, here before Radahn. So we could also assume that this road was here. Some of these ruins, you could argue. Was Fort Gael here? Like, was it part of the, well, let's call it the Old World ruins that were here but unoccupied, and then Radahn just took them over? Or were they built by Radahn and the Redmanes? Because, assuming that Caelid was wild and untamed, this does not look like a wild, untamed place. It looks like it was well settled and lived in, given all the ruins. Which tells me that, at a minimum, Radahn was very good at what he did, which was protecting and ensuring that people were able to live here safely. Go back to the highway. Here's a What are these called? Astrolobes? That's a very small one. Now, these are not uncommon in areas where there are mages or sorcerers. There's also... Okay, yeah. Now, as I was saying about the meteor impacting Sellia, if it was a meteorite, like, not so much a falling star life form inside a meteorite, but just a big chunk of space rock, look at the devastation. You can see the giant hole that the one that hit Limgrave left. You can see it from all the way over here. You can see where the rocks are floating up. That giant hole. That would have devastated Caelid if something like that had hit. Like, imagine the amount of lives lost. And the sheer, like, just devastation it would have caused on not only the people, but the terrain, the environment, the ecosystems. And that's assuming there wasn't something else hidden in that meteor, like an Estelle. There's an undead dragon that's normally here, but I've already killed it too. This cathedral... So this is a Cathedral of Dragon Communion, which is different than the churches. It actually has the more powerful dragon spells, like Ezekiel's, Ezekiel's... What is that? Where's your head? Yeah, Ezekiel's Decay, Grail's Roar, Boreal's Mist. It has all of the more powerful versions of the dragon attacks. And there was a dragon guarding it that had become infested with rot. Back to the highway. This is a bit strange. Unlike most places, you can actually see a road here leading to Redmane Castle, but there's not a road there. It may have been a large dirt road at one point, but it's not paved like the highway is. But you can clearly see where it was meant to be. And it's a big, bald spot in the ground. Now, the Redmanes are heavily guarding Radahn's castle. Now, this will also show kind of the Redmanes themselves. There is a Smoldering Wall here. This one locked onto me. I don't need him on me. They continue to fight these dino doggies. Ferociously, by the way. Oh, damn it. There's a guard tower. You can see them all the way over in the distance fighting. So this is also a look into how Radahn led. And you can tell, like, there's a big difference between Melania and Radahn. Melania wasn't really so much a leader. Yes, the Clean Rot Knights followed her. And they served her. But once she passed out, and she had to be carried away, the Clean Rot Knights just kind of lost everything. They wander around over here in like the heart of Aeonia. They just wander around aimlessly. Like they'll attack you, but other than that, they don't do anything. They just walk around like they've just lost their purpose in life. But the Redmanes are very different. Their lord, Radahn, is over there in his arena. He's completely mad. He's been driven mad by the rot. But without him, they've structured themselves to where they can function without him. That isn't something that just happens overnight. That is something that had to have been taught to them, something that had to be enforced and explained and worked out. So you can tell there's definitely a hierarchy with the Redmanes. With Jaren dealing with the festival, which somebody asked me to do a video on the festival. I'll add it. But Jaren is in the castle dealing with the festival and trying to give Radahn an honorable death. The knights seem to be at the head of the hierarchy, they're at the top. And then the footmen, and then the ones with the scarlet tabards. Which one are those? The foot soldiers. So there's a clear hierarchy. There is stable. There's a stable structure to where even without Radahn, the Redmanes could still execute near perfect. They were able to do the Smoldering Walls. They're able to fight off the Scarlet Rot. They're able to fight off the the dogs, the crows. They are still holding strong points, Redmane Castle, Fort Jail. They are still keeping formations. They are still acting as if General Radahn is here giving orders. Even though he's not. That shows a very meticulous and strict teaching. Now again, opposed to the way they've structured themselves with a hierarchy, you have, again, the Clean Rot Knights over there in Ionia just wandering around mindlessly. That's how big of a difference it is. And to anyone who wanted to say, well, why didn't Mikola choose Melania as a consort? Which, those are also the same people who have problems with Radahn being a consort. This is one of the reasons why. A consort in this game also means you are Elden Lord. You are Lord. You have to lead people. You have to take care of people. You have to bring about the age. Melania was not capable of doing that. She did not have the discipline for that. And I'm not talking about combat discipline. To anyone who's going to come in and say, well, she learned all this, she did this, she stood toe-to-toe with Radahn. That's not what I'm talking about. She didn't have the structural discipline. That's why the Clean Rot Knights are over there wandering around. She did not have the discipline for that. It was, we're going to do this. Mikola needs his consort, we're going to do this. All or nothing. After that, they're just over there wandering. Because they don't know what to do now. Like, their goal is finished. The Redmanes are very structured. They were trained to be like this. They were trained, they were taught about the hierarchy. The knights, the soldiers, the footmen. They are very structured. This is what it means to be, like, a lord. This is the kind of discipline you need in a lord. Now, to everyone else who keeps saying, like, Radahn stalled the stars for whatever excuse, the Star Scourge talisman is one clue. This is the second. The Star Scourge conflict. Radahn alone holds Sellia secure and stands tall to shatter the stars. Again, this just straight up tells you why he went to war with the stars. This is the second time you're told. So anyone who says he did it to stall the stars because of Ranni or fate or Mikola, you're blatantly wrong. You are told in the base game twice, two different times, why he stalled the stars. The Star Scourge conflict. That is the war he fought against the stars. Radahn alone holds Sellia secure. Well, what could that possibly mean? You are shown right here what that means. You are shown exactly why he stopped the stars. So, you put these two things together. This is Radahn fighting a falling star. It says it right in the description. Mightiest hero of the demigods confronted the falling stars. It tells you right there. That was a falling star. He fought the falling stars. The Star Scourge conflict, what we just saw on the talisman. Radahn alone holds Sellia secure. That tells you exactly why he did it. There was a falling star. Sellia was in danger. He went to war. He got control of the stars. And to protect Sellia, and let's be honest, in Caelid in general, he halted them. Now, this, because I've seen people conflict this too, this does not mean Radahn was unable to let go of the past. He couldn't let go of, like, fate. He wanted to be the hero for all times. No. That's blatantly not true. If you do Ranni's quest, nobody knows why her fate is stalled. E.G. doesn't know, Sullivan doesn't know, Blight doesn't know. Ranni herself, the one whose very fate is stalled, does not know. That's because they aren't aware of their ties to the stars. Jaren knows, and Sellia knows after she's asked by Sullivan to check into it, but nobody in the Carrion families knew why their fate had been stalled. So, no, Radahn did not do it to stall fate, because he was not, to some extent, not aware. Especially if Ranni was not aware. So, oh, it was Radahn, this is where that rumor came from. Astrology tool used by members of the Caelem royal family, a stolen part of a larger instrument. Allows the viewer to better see faraway things. During the age of the Erd-Tree, Caelem astrology withered on the vine. The fate once right in the night, or writ in the night skies, has been fettered by the Golden Order. That was not Radahn, that was Radahn. And anyone's going to fight this, the reason this was Radahn is because Radahn, and by extension Ranni, had no idea that stalling the stars stalled fate. So Radahn did not do, like, stalling fate on purpose. It was, to go back to Berserk, which this is based off of, causality. And if you don't know what causality is, think of it as you push one domino over, and then the whole line of dominoes falls. Now the last domino falls off the table and cracks. You did not mean to crack that domino, but your actions led to that domino being cracked because you pushed the first one. That is causality, in a very simplified term. Radahn stalled fate was not his intent. His intent was to save Caelid and Sellia. Fate being stalled was part of causality of him doing that. In other words, it was a byproduct, it was not the reason. Now, during the age of the Erd-Tree, Caelem astrology withered on the vine. That is directly linked to Radahn, not Radahn. So we could get into like Radahn and Radahn, what he did to simplify it, and if people want a bigger video on it, I will make a bigger video on it. He couldn't beat Renali, so he quote-unquote fell in love with her. It's not clear if he did or not. But by marrying her, he did gain some power in the Caelem royal family. He was the one who started to have... He more or less started to cut them away from their past knowledge. Which would explain why Radahn, Rykard, and Ranni had no idea about the stars. That's why, like, thinking about it, like, E.G., Blythe, Ranni, Sullivan, none of them knew about the stars stalling, being the reason why Ranni couldn't move forward. They had to outsource that information. They literally had to get other people to figure it out for them. Which is either because that information was never offered to them, or it is a level of incompetence that I've never seen before in a game. Whichever. The withered on the vine, that would have been done by Radahn. Fate once writ in the night skies has been fettered by the Golden Order. That means that it was Radagon's interference that stopped that. Now, I've already said it once. Radahn was not part of the Golden Order. He had nothing to do with the Golden Order. Everything Golden Order related is something Radahn went against. Now, he didn't do, like, blasphemous things like Rykard did, but every action he did was something that you would not see from someone in the Golden Order. The militiamen, for instance, being the first example. He had trolls in his army. He had misbegotten, crucible knights. All things thought of as underneath. And then you had Commander Gaius, who was an Albernurk. Albernurks are not considered people in the Golden Order. They are considered like disgusting creations made by man. And yet, Radahn looked up to one. These are things that people in the Golden Order do not do. Now, if we are to look at Sullivan's, because I know I have one of his... I overlooked it. Preceptor's big hat. This is Sullivan's hat. A large hat with the movement of the stars drawn on the inside of the brim, worn by the magic preceptors who served the Caelem royals. That is important. That means Sullivan... They acted kind of like teachers to the Caelem royals. Glintstone sorcerers are the descendants of astrologers, a fact the Caelyans remain aware of, even if their fate has long been severed from the stars. It's been severed because of Radahn, because Radahn wasn't either aware or he didn't see it as much of a drawback as losing half of his home. There is stuff about, like, the stitches around the mouth to prevent them from talking about secrets and stuff, which, in other words, when Radahn had them stitch the mouths of the mask closed, that was pretty much the, you do not speak of this stuff anymore. Over time, yes, it would wither because that knowledge would be lost. That is how certain things like that would wither. Is Radahn comes in as a symbol of them not being able to talk about certain things, say the history of the Carian family or astrologers or their fate. Over time, it would wither because we don't know how long it was before the 3 children were born. So that information would be lost over time, which is why everyone's confused as to why Ronnie can't have her fate move, because nobody knows, because that information was lost. That is the telescope of that. But the stitching around the mouth is very important because it would stifle what they would be able to say, what they would be able to tell the upcoming generation of Carian royals. And Rennala, she can't say anything. That is the power of being a husband to a queen. And on top of that, we already know Radahn is linked to the Golden Order. Even America called him the Leal Hound of the Golden Order. He's a champion of the Golden Order, and then he became Elden Lord of the Golden Order. Radahn is not part of the Golden Order. It was Radahn who caused their history to wither by forcing the Preceptors to keep their mouth shut. This is where you can fight the Crucible Knight and the... It's a Misbegotten. And on top of this, if we want more evidence that Radahn did not purposely, cause harm to the Carian royals, you can see, despite being a male in the Carian family, which means he's not considered royalty. He and Rykard are never referred to as princes. There's literally no dialogue, no item descriptions. There's no items. There is nothing that ever mentions a Carian prince. That's because prince and what we think of is not how it works in Elden Ring. Princes do exist. Godwyn was a prince. He's a Prince of Death now. But as it stands, they are never called princes. They are never referred to as princes. There's nothing that ever calls them princes. Because the Carian royal family is matriarchal. It's all women. Men will leave. The male children will leave and start their own lives, but they are never considered princes. There's zero... They have zero power, they have zero say, they have zero influence. But despite that, you can tell Radahn still honored his bloodline as a Carian, even if he wasn't seen as royalty. This setup is very similar to what you see in the Carian Manor. The difference is, instead of the astrolabe, the Carian Manor, it's circled around a pool of water, which is fitting for Rennala and the Carian princesses, who all represent moons. Here, it is just circled around the astrolabe. Which, this is also very likely how Radahn knew that a meteor was gonna hit Sellia. Because this is how they track the stars. This is how they looked at the stars. This is how they tracked star movements. And it's not like he would have seen it and it would have happened the next day. It takes a long time for a star to travel. But he probably saw it through this. And that's when he decided he needed to do something. And boy, did he do something. This is where Jaren was sitting. Again, Radahn did take care of his followers. You have a chapel, books, supplies. Now, considering this is here, this makes me think that this is part of the old world architecture and Radahn just took it over. Like, it was uninhabited and then Radahn took it over. This place is huge. Now, Radahn hung swords and shields like Christmas lights. Or the Redmanes did this as a way to honor the fallen warriors. Either way, it's a nice touch. This is where the festival is usually held. I believe on one of my other characters it's still being held. Now, despite, like, the Scarlet Rot Knights, the Clean Rot Knights, not really being a threat anymore, what do you... this castle is still heavily guarded. The gates are closed, there's guard towers, there's ballistas, there's trebuchets. Flame vents, as you saw. There's a random abductor version over there. There's that troll. There's a few trolls that wander around. That one has a flaming sword and it hits very hard. I'm going backwards because there's a pumpkin head up there too. Go all the way back. There were 2 lions in here. There were 2 lions in here. So again, Radahn had several lions too, which is unsurprising. And the gate, the main gate, the way you would normally come in. Now, as for the hanged footmen, foot soldiers, I don't know if they were traitors or if they were part of Melania's, and that was just their punishment. So you only see this like in Lindell. There's you in there. I don't think I've ever seen that dog in there before. Tried to disturb him. There are a lot of commoners in here. Now, I don't know if they worked for Radahn, like... Because I imagine Pew. That's a bat. Outside of the Redmanes, there would have to be somebody who would do like castle upkeep. So I don't know if these commoners were the ones doing like the castle upkeep, and they just stayed either because they didn't have anywhere else to go or because it was safer here, or if these were commoners from like one of the ruins who fled here looking for safety. Both are plausible. But there are a lot of them in here, huddled down and trying to keep safe, which is... I've always felt bad for killing them all. Like, they're just trying to stay safe. And considering the limited resources the Redmanes have, the fact that the Redmanes even let them stay here to take up more of their already limited resources, again, shows what kind of people the Redmanes are. And to emphasize on that, again, words will matter. Olga, the longest serving member of the Redmane Knights, Olga studied techniques to manipulate gravity alongside Radahn. So he was training in gravity at the same time Radahn was. That says... That tells you Radahn had started forming the Redmanes before he ever even conquered the stars. Now, obviously, the Redmanes weren't fully formed by then, but that's when he started to look for members. Freya was a gladiator, though the timeline gets a little confusing. Mesmer knows what Tarnished are, so Mesmer had to be around the time Godfrey was exiled to know what a Tarnished was. That means he was likely sent on his mission right after or around the time Radahn took over as Elden Lord, which we would consider, which would line up. Because Radahn closed down the Colosseums, which left a lot of gladiators out of place, and that's when Freya was a gladiator, I believe. So he was forming the Redmanes around the time he began to form the Redmanes around the time while he was still learning gravity sorceries. Both spirits wield fiery weapons to perform powerful skills, such as the Valor that they will immediately attack after being summoned. General Radahn soldiers were all reputed to be masterful warriors, and it was popularly said that the Redmanes knew no weakness. And again, words matter. Valor, valorous, heroic, are all words that describe the Redmanes Radahn. Again, words matter. That means they were always thought of as being very good. Valorous, heroic. Whereas Malenia was feared, Radahn was revered. Put it that way. Which is also something you need in an Elden Lord. You don't want people to fear your Elden Lord. You want them to look up to them. And while the Redmanes are clearly very powerful warriors, they are very honorable. Now, if I go towards Sellia from Redmane Castle, I'm going to get pots thrown at me by that troll that's up there. That'd be very unpleasant. Sellia's in ruins. Oh my god! Unwieldy swords. God damn. The town of Sorcery is in ruins, but you can tell... You can see the link it had to, the Nox. Which the Sellian sorcerers are supposed to be, like, descendants of the Nox. You can see glintstone popping up. Now, going back to the theme of Elden Ring and Berserk about causality and stagnation. Yes, everything stagnated. No, Radahn did not do it on purpose. This is a cause. Again, a decision is made. This is the effect of it down the line. Now, way over here, Ordina is almost identical to Sellia. Now, Miquella at some point had to have come to visit Radahn. He probably did it multiple times. I've seen theories that everywhere that a Miquella's Lily is where Miquella had once visited, and there is a Miquella's Lily here. Or a couple of them. Now, the reason I say he had to have visited here is because Ordina has the same type of sealing mechanism that Sellia does. Up here. Now, these are more Nox related. The ones in Ordina are not, which is how I know Miquella had to have come here, because the holders for the fire are very different. Here, they look like something that came from Noxtella. One of the Nox cities, probably Noxtella. So, try to get up here and not fall off. Can you stop? You could just stop dismounting backwards, that'd be fantastic. Ooh. These are in the style of something you would see at Noxtella. A little pool of water, the blue flames. These are reminiscent of the Eternal City. The ones in Ordina are Mikola statues. So in order to replicate this, Mikola would have had to have seen it. And he replicated it with him kneeling down and the fire in his palm of his hand. The idea is the exact same. You light the fire, the seal breaks. The only difference is that here it's something from, like, the Eternal Cities, and Mikola's was a statue of his, well, younger self, holding a candle, I believe. So Mikola had to have come here, he had to have seen it to replicate it. Ah, my torrent controls on a par today. Let's see what we do. 4. 1. Oh, only 3. Now to add to the whole, yeah, Radahn was not part of the Golden Order. He guarded this place so thoroughly that he had to lock the stars in place to protect it. There are 2 Nox that you can fight up there, or over there. We look at some of the... We look at some of the stuff, because this will all tie back into Radahn. Sellia was known for night sorceries. Now, Radahn learned gravitational sorceries here through a Alabaster Lord. But Sellia had its own type of sorcery, which were night sorceries. The Sellian sorcerers were assassins, and it is said that they often hunted their fellows. That is not uncommon either. Radahn has a... You see this twice. Jaren is tasked with killing Selin, due to being a graven witch. Radahn, the Sellia hideaway, I believe is where it is. He's got, Lustat locked away here. And he's behind a seal. Now, again, Radahn controls Caelid. There's nothing that goes on here that he doesn't know about. I believe Lustat is behind a carrion seal. So he's hidden here. He's locked away. Oh. And you can tell from the ghost, there were a lot of people who got caught in the unfortunate decision Millennium made. There's one more. Where is he? Oh, there he is. Now, the imbued sword key. Those are also very important. breaks the seals on the imp statues guarding the Sending Gate and Shrine in each belfry. Now, these belong to the gates at the 4 belfries that are in Liurnia. And if you take into consideration that that also seemed to be where Radahn got his cat, which was cut content, but I kind of understood why they cut it, because it would have taken away from Leonard if he also had a cat. But up here, the 4 belfries, again, this is where Radahn... Liurnia was where Radahn was born, he was raised. He still honors his Carian blood. In Sellia, there is a key for one of these towers. They probably would not have that key if it wasn't for Radahn, keeping that safe. Can only hide so many things in a castle. Now, moving up here, there's another important item. This is it. Yes, the Staff of Loss. Staff missing its glintstone, wielded by sorcerers who believe that discovery comes through acts of asceticism. This, in other words, they believe acts come through, or discovery comes through acts of will. It said in the glintstone's staffs that the glintstones are what allow the sorcerers to channel their power. This is saying, well, in Sellia, the sorcerers, or at least the ones with this kind of staff, could cast sorceries without glintstone through acts of will alone. That also tracks with Radahn, since Radahn doesn't have a staff. When he casts sorceries, he never has a staff or anything with glintstone. He channels it through his swords, which when you see him rub the 2 swords together, you'll see purple sparks, which is a nice detail. So he doesn't use glintstone like other sorcerers, he uses his swords. The reason he continued to hold the stars was through will. It was a sustained effort, which makes it all the more sad that Melania couldn't kill him, considering, yeah, while he had a great rune, so did she. He was also crippled by having to hold the stars. Here are the 2 knocks. Oh, that was beautiful. Lustat's glintstone staff, that was being protected. Or hidden away in this case, since Lustat himself is in mage prison. But you did have 2 knocks in Sellia. And again, Radahn had to have known this, and he was okay with it. And in case you're wondering why that matters, the Eternal Cities were banished underground for fighting against the Golden Order. They created the Finger-Slaying Blade. They were as anti-Golden Order as you could, with the exception of maybe Rykard and what he did. And there was 2 of them here, and Radahn was like, okay, whatever. You have another church. The Church of the Plague. It's fitting. You've got Gallery Shack down here. It's not really much. But yeah, the entrance, there's a tower. There's a troll over there on that side that will throw pots at you, which is why I went around. There's another astrolabe over here. Fort Faroth. That was an interesting place. Actually, if I'm gonna go in there, I'm gonna wanna... Now, part of why Caelid may have also been called the Wild is because of the Dragon Barrow. So most of this down here seems settled with people. Whether it's before or after Radahn doesn't really matter. But the Dragon Barrow up here doesn't have ruins, but it does have a lot of dragons. It had Grail, too, if you don't know. But there is a fort up here. And northern Caelid is much more painful to go through than the southern part. So Fort Faroth is the final fort. And to also kind of hammer this in, Radahn had Caelid on lockdown. You've got Fort Faroth here. You've got Redmane Castle over here. Fort Jail over here. He has the outer part of Caelid on guard. Now, this down here is his arena. The only way to get in or out of this arena is through Redmane Castle. So, say somehow ships make it and land over here, the only way they're getting into Caelid is through Redmane Castle. Fort Faroth also overlooks it, and that's not including outposts or waypoints that may have been used by the Redmanes, but it looks like mostly northern Caelid was outside of Fort Faroth. The Redmanes really didn't have much of a presence here. And I would almost argue that their presence was even limited in here. Okay. It's dark in here, so it is hard to see, but the Redmane presence in Fort Faroth may have been limited. There looks like there's supplies, but to add on to like the carrion bond that Radahn had, some of these that look like ghosts look more like carrion puppets. Also, he had this. This is how you get into Altus Plateau if you don't take the cave route. Radahn had half of it. He also has a Radahn Scar Seal. Now, at first, I thought these were ghosts, but they're not. These Redmane soldiers have glowing blue eyes, and they have a blue tint to them, instead of the white of a ghost. These are puppets. Like you see in Carrion Manor. Which is curious. They even appear like the Carrion puppets. So I don't know if Radahn actually had, like, living Redmane soldiers. I don't know if Radahn had, like, actual living Redmane soldiers here, or if it was taken care of by puppets. Which would kind of make sense, since the Redmanes don't have a presence here. It's just mostly dragons. Like, this is Grail's territory. But to keep this fort running, he may have just had it run by puppets. Because there are supplies here, so it could be like a supply stop. Or it could be linked to Sellia, where it delivered supplies to Sellia. Or held them, or something. But to prevent, like, incidences with dragons, he may have just had puppets. This may have just been a way to prevent casualties with dragons, or conflicts with dragons. There are people hung here, though, so it may have been part puppet, maybe part real. No, it was a sword seal. Radahn sword seal. Greatly raises vigor, endurance, strength, dexterity, but also increases damage taken by similar measure. Solemn duty waits upon the one beholden, not unlike a gnawing curse from which there is no deliverance. This also points back to what Trina was saying about how being a god is a curse. That's why she didn't want Miquella to become a god, because it's like it's a curse. Now, ideally, according to Ronnie and Miquella's cut dialogue, an age is only supposed to last 1,000 years, and then a new age is supposed to take over. It looked like America, like, extended it, because you had the age with Godfrey, and then you had the age with Radahn, which also would have added to the stagnation that the land between was suffering from. So not just Radahn's doing, it was also America's. Caelid is connected to Siofra and Nokron, so it was Nokron, not Nokstella. There's the Caelid Coliseum. The Caelid Tower, the Divine Tower, is also very unique. Again, this shows the Redmanes. There are ladders all over this. That's because the Redmane are both on and inside the tower itself. Whether they're, like, repairing it or just guarding it, I'm not sure. Now, the Divine Tower, this is the only Divine Tower where you actually have to go up and down. There's a Black Flame Monk in... No, there's 2 Black Flame Monks in here. A Godskin Apostle. And a bunch of Redmanes. Again, the fact that the Redmanes are in here guarding the inside of the tower means Radahn knew about the Black Flame Monks. He knew about the Godskin Apostle. All of which are vehemently against the Golden Order. He had to approve this. Now, the Godskin Apostle that's in the basement is guarding this. The Godslayer Greatsword from the Gloom-Eyed Queen. If you don't know, Marika had Malakath kill the Gloom-Eyed Queen. The black flames wielded by the apostles are channeled from this sword. They're called Godslayers for a reason. The black flame is particularly nasty against gods and godlike creatures. One of the easiest ways to kill the Elden Beast is with the Godskin, what is it, the Peeler? The Godslayer's Greatsword is also great. It has a much longer wind-up than the Peeler, which is a twin blade. Which it comes with the Ash of War, the Black Flame Tornado. And that will just melt the Elden Beast. Radahn was not part of the Golden Order. He knows about this stuff. He's got a God-slaying greatsword in his tower. This is his tower. This is Caelid's tower. This is his divine tower. He's got 2 Black Flame Monks, a Godskin Apostle, who's guarding a God-slaying greatsword that belonged to one of Marika's greatest enemies. He is not part of the Golden Order. You could tell me, well, he admired Godfrey, okay. Let's take a look at that real quick, too. So, people will say he idolized Godfrey. Idolized is not the right word. Radahn was naturally captivated. Captivated and idolized are not the same word. They do not mean the same thing. From his youngest years, Radahn was naturally captivated by the Lord of the Battlefield. That's because Radahn is a warrior. He is a born red-blooded warrior. He is the embodiment of strength. So yes, he is captivated. He looked up to Godfrey. I was born a champion's cub, now I am the Lord of the Battlefield's lion. This needs to be explained. I will do it in the entire video. This is just about Caelid and Radahn, so I don't want to get too sidetracked, but Radahn had a moment in his life where he changed. I think it was around the time he conquered the stars, but he did change. Not much left. I don't want to do Northern Caelid because Northern Caelid's not that important. I wonder if Blythe's gonna attack me. I forgot Blythe was out here. I forgot to send him on his way, yes! No, I forgot.
You're strong of arm. Well, ask yourself, what harm can be done to a shadow?
Now this is unfortunate, because I think he's stuck out here.
Didn't
Oh, yep! So this is also important. Blythe is not a normal character. He is a part of Ranni. He is her shadow. He says it himself when he goes insane. I am a part of her. That's why he's affected by the stalling of the stars, where Radahn and Rykard aren't. Now, as my second playthrough, I forgot to send him on his way. I think he's stuck out here now in Radahn's arena. Now we can tell from the absolute mess that this is where a majority of the battle took place. You'll see places around the swamp of Aeonia that have all these weapon piles. There's nothing like it is out here. Now you know this is where Malenia was fighting Radahn. She released the Scarlet Rot. You see this place in the trailer. This is where a majority of the soldiers were. If I had to take a guess, ideally, because we saw it in the trailer, this is where Radahn and Malenia fought. This is where he wanted to contain it. So think of it as a giant coliseum for an all-out brawl between two armies. Like, you could see it. Where things went sideways was when Melania unleashed the Scarlet Rot. Which, clearly, Radahn was not expecting. And it infested Caelid, and then the fighting broke out across Caelid. Which is where you see the other weapon piles where, while it started here and it was supposed to stay here, it did not. It moved to the rest of Caelid. But you can see, like, even if enemies landed on this beach, there would be no way up. There'd be no way to get up there without going through Redmane Castle. Now this will be the last place I take because it again will show, like, Radahn and the Redmane's ideology. Anyone who's ever been over here will have nightmares about this particular catacomb. So I saw a comment on one of the videos talking about, you know, the loss of life and how bad it was and how they would sacrifice like that many people and the resources and blah blah blah. The Redmanes are born warriors. They love battle. Now they won't go out and start a war, but the idea of fighting a war is like divine to them. Freya is so excited about being able to fight Ansbach, even though they were allies. The Redmanes are dead. These are actual ghosts. These aren't puppets. They are having a post-life war in these catacombs. They have taken their war from life into the afterlife. They're having a full-out brawl with the ghosts of the Caelem Rot Knights. This is how powerful their battle sense is. This is also very dangerous. There should be a. Yeah, they'll keep going at it too. Like it's. There he is. Now, even in death, the Redmanes are not just mindlessly fighting the Caelem Rot Knights. Even as ghosts, they are putting strategy into it. You have several knights sniping from ledges. You've got one across there that tried to shoot me. You got one here that shoots me. I think there's another one at the end of that hallway. There's another one. You can't see him, but he's over there. They are very strategic even in death. Oh. They can still use gravity magic in death. Holy shit. Calm down. But this is to kind of show people, like, no, the Redmanes aren't going to go mindlessly slaughter people in a bloodlust, but when it comes to war, that is their thing. It wasn't a waste of life. It wasn't like some pointless thing. No. This is what they lived for. This is what they died for. It goes back to the warrior culture of dying in battle. It's considered like one of the greatest honors you could have, especially honorable battle, which is where a lot of people have problems with Melania using the Rot. She couldn't win through strength, so she had to unleash Scarlet Rot, and here we are with Caelid. But this also, again, specifically using Caelid, why Miquella would have wanted Radahn as a consort. Now, this is not getting into why Radahn would have accepted, because, again, all evidence proves that he did consent, he did want it. But this does prove as to why it was Radahn and not Melania or somebody else. Once Radahn conquered the stars, it seems like he took over Caelid. After the Shattering, every demigod had a place where they were controlling, except Rykard, who only had Volcano Manor. Look at Caelid. It had a functioning highway. It's got several towns, outposts, waypoints, small villages. Like, this was a thriving place. Radahn was able to set up a place that would allow people to live safely, grow, be happy, up until, the Rot. While Grail still had her territory up here. Like, he didn't conquer Grail and the Dragon Barrows. He let the dragons have their territory up here. He kept everyone else safe. He tried to contain the war between Redmanes and Clean Run Knights, or him and Melania, to a very large designated arena. That backfired because of Melania, not him. Now, this also wasn't a thing into why he stalled the stars, but I had to show the evidence while it was here. And also, you can see the way people thought of Radahn. You had the servants who are still here in the Redmane Castle. You know the Redmanes have to be pressed for resources, but they're letting them stay. And again, the Redmanes show what kind of person Radahn was, because they reflect their leader. Just like, for instance, Godric hunting Tarnished. Godric's soldiers, despite being loyal, are also hunting innocent people for Godric. The soldiers are a reflection of their leader. The Redmanes did everything they could to protect the rest of the lands between from the Scarlet Rot. Despite Radahn being driven insane and crippled over here in the arena, the Redmanes were still able to pull together, have their chain of command, slow down the rot, have all of the smoldering walls. They still have an organized setup where they're protecting the forts. Now, they're clustered to where they're mainly protecting important parts. Redmane Castle, Fort Jail. Fort Faroth is puppets. They're in Caelem. And this is without a leader. Again, the Clean Rot Knights are over here wandering around in the swamp of Aeonia. Literally just like walking around doing nothing. The Redmanes have come together. They're organized. They're still valiantly trying to keep Scarlet Rot contained. And that is the difference. Radahn was not just a warrior. He was a leader. And he was a very, very competent, a very good, and a very well-liked leader. No NPC has a single bad thing to say about him. Even Ansbach, who, again, was disgusted by what happened to Mog's body, when he saw Radahn, he did not attack Radahn. He greeted him very politely. Every time somebody talks about Radahn, they're very polite about it. Unlike Godric. He was very well liked. He was very confident. He was very organized, and he planned. These are qualities that an Elden Lord has. This is stuff that, for instance, Melania did not have. So this will be just Caelid and Radahn with some extra stuff. I will still do the entire Radahn video, which will include everything from the stars, to his armor, to all the clues that were given as to why he consented, because all the clues do point. And if anyone wants to come in and says, well, I don't think he consented, you better come with, like, evidence and reasons, because I just don't think isn't gonna cut it. I will tear you apart in the comments. Because I can point to at least, 5 things that point to that he consented. Including the way Miquella acts with Radahn himself. And that would also include some of Miquella's lore, because people think he was charmed. He couldn't have been charmed, again, because of the way Miquella worked in Shadow of the Erdtree. This is just Caelid, though, so I will get on to the actual full video for Radahn. I had to get this one out of the way, though.